Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to Innovation Tech Community. So this is the I mean, second week of Microsoft AA Days. So today we have Akshan Sharma. He's one of the expert speaker for today's session. He's going to demonstrate something on knowledge source Copilots. Where today's AI world, like it is especially we need to talk about the Copilots and AI and agents and all. So today we need to know something more curious information and the more knowledgeable information from Akshan. So he's like apps and automation directors in apps. Like he's very much expertise in Copilot and agents and AI and Power Automate and Power Platform as well. If you want, reach out to him, if you personal assistant regarding anything related to the technical stuff and all. So please feel free to reach out to us. And meanwhile, during this session, if you have any queries, feel free to drop your queries so that we can assist you during the session and all. So, in meanwhile, without delay, so I'm handing over to the Akshans. So, hi Akshans, and welcome to Innovation Tech Community.
Hi Pratap, thank you very much for the warm welcome.
Mm,
And hi,
mm,
although I don't know how many people joined, I can't see in this
Yeah,
platform. So in this call.
yeah. So we do have almost 20 people join through different platforms, YouTube and LinkedIn as well.
Oh, great, great.
Yeah,
That's good. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for giving us your precious hour on a Saturday. Your dedication means a lot. And I just wanted to know what kind of audience we have today. So, how many of you are actually working in Power Platform and automation space?
uh, yeah. So we do have combination of all tech spaces, from non-technical and technical people we have. We didn't see there. So this is a live stream, like we about the how many people from the different sectors as well. Yeah. So
That's good. No worries. I think you can use chat feature in
yeah,
this
yeah,
and
yeah.
answer if you want to answer.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah.
All right, cool. So I'm guessing we do have non-tech and students and professionals as well. So I'll kick off with the basics, and then we will talk about architecture, security, governance, and as you all know, today's topic is basically how you can build smart uh, copilot agents which are knowledge aware and they can understand the context who is accessing the information. So, official title from SharePoint to Smart Answers Building Knowledge Copilots. So, what we will be looking into will be designing role aware, secure, and permissions of aware copilot agents today. So, let's dive into this. So, a little bit about myself. So, as Pratap mentioned, I work as a, delivery director, apps and automate director at Synapse, and I'm a community super user. I found Bangalore Power Platform User Group. Officially, I'm a technical content creator as well. So I do create videos on features and use cases on my YouTube channel, and I like to answer questions using Microsoft Community, and yeah, that's there is to it about myself. So what we will be learning today, right? So that's very important to understand before we start digging deep into the session. So we will be learning how we are building context aware copilots. Now what does that mean? That means that let's say you have 10 or 20 policies or any kind of document stored in your SharePoint. We'll be using backend as SharePoint today. So we will be able to see the information stored in those documents via the Copilot. So we will create SharePoint back Copilots that understand user context, permission context, and whenever you are asking any natural language question, you will be able to see a response based on your permissions. So that's the crux of today's session. And then we will understand how Copilot is actually understanding the context and how we can ingest the user context in the response which we are getting from Copilot Studio chatbots or bots basically. So that's the second part of it. Third part would be enterprise security. So whenever we are working with any kind of enterprise company or client, or within your own company itself, right? The best practice would always circle back whenever it comes to autonomous agents or any kind of agents. So enforcing security is very important, because whenever you are talking about enterprise level data, enterprise level documents, you're talking about uh, having or gaining access where you should not have access, or you shouldn't be accessing that information at all, right? So all these different parts of the architecture, whenever you're building an agent, we'll be looking into, and we will be optionally will be looking into trigger actions. We won't cover trigger actions today, but I'll show you, or I'll high level explain how you can have trigger actions and actionable integration between your agent and your automation via Power Automate and Power Apps. Now, not sure how many of you are actually aware of Power Automate and Power Apps. So, Copilot Studios, Power Automate, Power Apps, Power BI, they combinedly form Power Platform, and they are very tightly integrated with one another as well. So whenever we talk about autonomous agent having an automation or having a front end of the for the data, so for automation we use Power Automate. So any kind of custom trigger or custom ingestion of user input, we use Power Automate for it. And for any kind of front end display, we use Power Apps for it. So Power Apps would be your equivalent to React, I can say. Yeah, React applications. That will be your front end in Power Platform low code space. And for automation, you have your Power Automate. So we'll be looking into that high level optional architecture, how you can do it. So these are the points we will be covering or learning today. And hopefully you'll enjoy the session. So let's start with very the very underlying bottleneck, and why we need to create such solution, right? So what is the problem basically? Whenever we are working with large firm organization, right? So we are talking about thousands of users trying to access something, or thousands of users with their data with different policies and hundreds of policy documents across different verticals. We are talking about people trying to access relevant information, and sometimes it might feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack, right? The information can be overwhelming. So the very first point for our problem is like fragmented content. What does that mean? That means like whenever enterprise grade information policies we are talking about, we tend to store them in different platforms. So it can be SharePoint itself, but within SharePoint you might have, let's say, 50 different SharePoint sites from 5, 10, 15 departments, and they are storing their own set of documents within their SharePoint site. Now that SharePoint site documents doesn't talk to, let's say we are talking about finance SharePoint site, won't talk to marketing SharePoint site. So when we have documents stored in finance document library within SharePoint, how will I, as an HR, or let's say as an admin, I want to know what is my policy across finance and marketing together. So there is no way. Either I have to go to that particular site and open that file side by side and read through it, or someone needs to give me a summarized document version of those two policies. So that is why we are trying to create a centralized platform where all our documents will be feeded in as an input. And front end wise, we will see that chatbot agent kind of UI where you can ask natural language questions and it will give you that summarized view. So that is the major bottleneck for enterprise companies where we are looking at hundreds of policies and people trying to access relevant information. And then even if you build like a basic Q&A system where you are trying to, let's say, um, you created a Power BI report and that natural language query you have created and passed on all its data. Now, the response you will get out of it won't be as crisp and clear as you would have get from a Copilot agent. Now, basic Q&A response and sometimes wrong answers as well, or sometimes um, where you should not have received that information as an output, sometimes you get it, right? So generic responses and sometimes user or this whole agent Q&A system does not respect the user permission at what level of permission that person has, so that it tailor the outcome according to the user permission. Now that becomes a very problematic scenario where we are talking about financial data, we are talking about people's salary with from the HR department, right? Imagine you know all your peers salary and then you on your lunch table you start gossiping, oh that person earns this much, you know that. So imagine the chaos within the organization, right? So not everyone should have that information. So that is why it's very important that people who are trying to find relevant information, your system should always give, must always give the relevant information. So that's the generic responses and then missing context. So it doesn't know who is accessing that information. What I mean by that is, let's say we have three different users. One is an HR, one is finance admin, and one is just an employee. So when HR is trying, what is my leave policy, right? Then the output should tailor that, okay, since HR is asking and they have access to the policy, I will give them a thorough and detailed response. And then when a finance admin is asking for an HR policy, then it knows that, okay, it's the finance admin. Now, that person holds the admin as a role, but does that person have access to that source? Might be, might not be, right? So if that person has access, then I will give them a thorough response, a detailed response. Else, I will treat that person as a user, as an employee only. And then the final persona is the employee. You will always get only the relevant information out of that document for employees persona. So tailoring the output based on the user's specific need and role, that is very important for our use case here. So these are the three challenges we will be covering and seeing how we can solve using SharePoint, using Azure security groups, permissions of SharePoint, and then finally integrating that backend as our Copilot agent. Perfect. So uh, let's let's move forward. If you have any questions, you can ask
Yeah,
at any time as well.
yeah,
So
actions. Like we do have one question.
yeah,
Like there's a one person, or like I'm sharing that question here. Okay, so Monica is asking one question. Can you please explain how to use RAG while developing copilots?
uh, RAG, you mean red,
Yeah,
amber, green?
yeah. Yeah, RAG.
In what context? Sorry.
Like while developing, how to use RAG, like retrieval augment generation, like how we can connect the data sources to the copilots.
Yeah. All right. Perfect.
Yeah.
So that's fine. It is very easy, Monica, because I'll show you So yes, it was like topics, and you had so many branches and everything. But with Copilot Studio, which is the upgraded version or rebranded version of PVA, you have something called knowledge base. So it's similar to your LLM models, right? So just like how LLM train and gives you response based on a large data set as an input, and train the model based on that data, you have knowledge base equivalent in your Copilot, where you can basically connect. We will connect our input within our Copilot, and we'll use that as an input. So using knowledge base, we can connect any source, and we can give custom prompts as well. If you have, let's say, some custom input or files or something, that's how we will be looking into that. Don't worry today,
Okay, thank you.
right? So yes. Now, what is a use case, right? So, what are the steps that will be involved in our session in the live demo? So, first, very one is we will train our Copilot to answer and adapt based on user role, department, location, and the project affiliation as well. These are like metadata columns which we will use. We will set up on the um SharePoint site itself and use them when we are connecting the knowledge base. Then whatever metadata columns we create on our SharePoint site, what we will do is we will use those metadata columns within our Copilot, and we can use, let's say, we can prioritize when we are giving the instructions. But the most important part is that we create the metadata columns in a way so that our Copilot agent is able to access, and we can have instructions set to against those metadata columns. So we will create like a SharePoint document library. I've created it. I've like created and stored multiple policies as well. But I'll take you through like step by step guide, so how you can build like this personalized knowledge and permissions aware model. Then permissions wise, that would be the third step. So what we will do is we will create Azure security groups. So I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with SharePoint groups and the link. But what we can do is we can create like a security group similar to a SharePoint groups as well. When you create a site, you have by default your site groups, and you have your subgroups under your site groups for your list and documents permission. So similar to that, what we will do is we will create Azure security groups, and which can be managed via automation by looking at user department from Intra itself, and link or delink that person against that group. That's why we'll be using we'll be using Azure security group. We will link Azure security groups to our SharePoint document folder structure. That will tell our Copilot that, okay, this person has access on this particular folder. That means he has access to these files. So whenever I'm trying to give out tailor, or whenever I'm trying to tailor the answer, I will have to use these sources only. So that's where our permissions will link between our Azure security groups and our SharePoint structure. So that will be the third thing. And fourth thing, which I talked about, having the integration custom actions based on Power Automate, and then using Database and Power Apps as front end to display something to trigger any custom action, basically. So these will be the four major steps involved when we are trying to build like a context aware knowledge copilot agent. So we will execute these four one by one, and I'll take you through so that you can basically reproduce the same steps and create your first agent. Perfect. So now let's talk about the business value, what we will gain out of it, right? So that's the most important thing. if we are trying to build something, or if we are trying to pitch something um, within our within our within our company or your organization, or for your client as well, right? So whenever we are trying to pitch something, then how we will justify the ROI, right? The return on investment. So, very high level matrices. So, what we have seen when we implement autonomous agents and copilot agents, what we have seen so far, these are like industry numbers, and this will justify the ROI, right? So if people are spending time, money, and licensing costs, right? What is the ROI? The ROI is faster self-service. Instead of relying on your HR to give you answers or to give you that relevant information, instead of trying to find like needle in a haystack, right? So you will be self-sufficient to get that information. When you're working in large firm, sometimes you don't even know who is your HR. So when you don't know who is your HR, sometimes mailing them can be really painful. Been there, done that. So that's why I would love to have like a self-sufficient Copilot agent integrated within my teams, who I can ask questions and it will give me the answer. So 40% faster self-service using these autonomous agents, right? So you can use it just not for policies. You can use it to give you like latest status against your support tickets, create a support ticket for you, ask all the information which you want to give without leaving your team's channel, right? So that's the first main KPI which we have. All right, we have a couple of questions. I'll just finish this quick slide and we'll take these. Right. So uh, then we have policy compliance, right? We talked about what we talked about our security model. We talked about the relevant information or finding relevant information, right? Now there are rules, and especially when you're working in like European region, you have GDPR rules, and what information needs to be stored where, and who should have information or access to that information. So all these different rules. Now, if you have any breach within this policy, then it would be a major impact on the organization. So ensuring policy compliance, what we have seen, if you implement an autonomous agent like this one, or any kind of agent, like this is like our knowledge based copilot agent. But even if you implement like a very basic one, what we have seen is the human error percentage reduces by a significant percentage. So 85% more policy compliance, ensuring consistent policy enforcement. Now that doesn't mean just your department. We are talking about like your whole organization, at the organization level. So that's another ROI if you decide to implement. And then decision accuracy. Sometimes your HR might not be aware that, okay, you belong to this particular region, and because you belong to this particular region, you are entitled to have this many leaves instead of this. So decision accuracy, uh, the accuracy of the output increases drastically when AI actually scans or reads information and give you an answer, versus any person giving you the answer. So 60% more decision accuracy, and then all these numbers are measurable, right? So we can create and we can present something back by saying that, okay, because of this we implemented, and we got these results as a result of our implementation. So it basically drives data-based decisions and data driven organizations. So we are talking about matrix, we are talking about numbers, which might not have been the case if someone in person was working on these tasks. So these are like high level business values which we can present if we are trying to justify the ROI. Right. So Ravi asks a couple of questions. Okay. So, right.
Let me share my few questions. Um, how does the Copilot knows which version of document is the official one if there are five files with similar names in SharePoint?
Yeah. So, first thing is that we will be segregating based on folder structure, and it's a good thing. And second thing is that that's a good question. And how Copilot decides which version to pick is completely based on how you are setting up your folder structure and what instructions you are giving. So in this one, I am not considering version, so I only have one version, but you can have like custom instruction and tell the Copilot that, okay, when you're trying to give answer, always refer the latest version out of 5, 10, 15 versions of this document. So that way, you can always make sure that it's always referencing the latest one.
Okay, and there's one more question. Can the Copilot see my private drafts or email that I haven't shared with the rest of the team yet?
Uh, Draft emails that have a. So we are talking about two different things now. We are talking in this session. We are talking about Copilot Studios, and you're talking about, I think, the Microsoft 365 Copilot, which is completely different. I
Okay,
know the name is confusing, but Copilot Studio can never access your chats or your draft until and unless you create that as a knowledge base and use your credentials as a connection reference. That's the only way you can feed that information to Copilot Studio.
okay, okay. And there is one more question. What should I do if the Copilot gives me the answer that looks right, but the but it is actually pulling from an old or outdated project folder?
As I said, you need to
Yeah.
pass a custom instruction that covers with your versioning part. So if you have given like a custom instruction that you need to refer your latest version against this, it will always refer that particular latest one. But
Oh,
again, sometimes the accuracy uh, can be less. So if still it's giving you the outdated version, try it with a different or rewording your custom instruction.
okay. Thank you.
Right. So let's proceed further. Right. So we talked about the architecture, right? So that's what we will be creating today. So you have your Copilot in the middle, right? And it starts from signing in via Intra. So if you're trying to access, let's say, your agent, which is integrated within your Teams, within your SharePoint, or even if you have a link to it, you will always need to sign in via the Intra until and unless it's an open access from your Copilot. So you have your Copilot, which user authenticates via Intra. Copilot Studio receives that information as an input that, okay, user signed in, and validate the identity, which gives the context that who is the user, what's the user principal name, and the basic details basically, but not the metadata context which we were talking about earlier. That was department of the user, region. Is it APAC? Is it Asia? Is it North America, South America? So that information needs to be given by Power Automate as an custom input. So you have Copilot Studio, which receives upon doing user authentications, and then it has the context, the basic context of your Copilot. Then whenever you ask a query, right? So what is my leave policy? Question mark. It understands the user context, and then it looks at the knowledge base, i.e. your SharePoint, and look at, okay, user is trying to access leave policy. Now which folder would be suitable? Okay, that's inside my HR folder. Go inside HR folder, leave policy, pick it, read it, and give an answer. So that's your querying SharePoint. And while it's doing that querying, it ensures that user is always receiving the information where it has access to. So that search and security trimming will always happen based on your current user access. So, and then it generates the answer. So it tries to tailor the answer, and based on your permissions, it generates the tailored answer. Then optional Power Automate, which I talked about, right? So if you want to pass, let's say, a custom variable where you're trying to fetch all these metadata columns directly from your intra, right? So you can have that custom action triggered within your Power Automate, call the agent, pass the information by using the out of the box connectors of your Power Automate, and that's the optional part basically. But even if you don't do this, as long as you maintain your security permissions at the SharePoint level, at the folder level, using the right group and associate them correctly, Copilot is smart enough to understand that security information. So you, even if you don't do this optional one, if you're working with an agent which is like large scale and interconnected and everything, it's good to have that information. But for our use case, this one is optional, but I wanted you to be aware of, uh, to see if this is really required or not. So then we have optional, another one. So the moment you have, let's say, a custom action triggered, which we'll say, so if you have, let's say, a custom action which you want to trigger. So for example, if a manager is trying to access a leave policy and saying that, okay, send this for approval. So you can have actions and automations, your Power Automate flows linked within your Copilot, which will trigger the approval flow and send that approval request to the relevant person automatically. So that way, you can have your front end integrated via Power Automate itself. All right. So that's the high level architecture which we will be looking at, and then that's what we will be uh, working towards, right? So I talked about our metadata column and what columns we can have to increase the efficiency of our Copilot. So required metadata and columns. So we can have like department, region, policy type if a particular project is linked to that Copilot or not. And then we have our confidentiality, what level of confidentiality we would want to have for that policy. And once we maintain all these metadata columns, it's easier for us to enable smart copilots. So I have, as I said, I have created like a couple of talks. So leave policy 2026 and all these metadata columns are already embedded, and we will have more than, I think, three, four. I think I created four documents which we will see and query. Then context sources. I think someone asked how it identifies the sources within the that. So right. So I think we do have a couple of question. Right. So we have what Pratap asked, what makes Knowledge Copilot different from traditional SharePoint search? Very good question. Now, the very first thing, if you're working with SharePoint search, is that you would